All right, here comes a fun one. Sanctuary cities and states. I'm sure some of you have been wondering about what I stand for on this. And when I get to Washington, what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to support any and all actions against sanctuary cities and states. Now, another person who was originally running for the Senate had made a comment that over my dead body would Ohio have sanctuary cities. I got some bad news for you. As a senator in Washington, all senators have absolutely no control to stop a state or a city from declaring itself a sanctuary of illegal criminals. Okay? Illegal aliens and criminals. That is the mayor, city councils, the governor, and the state legislatures. They're the ones that control that. A U.S. senator cannot go to a city in his state. And I want to kind of pick on Cleveland, so Cleveland don't get upset at me. Let's say, for example, the mayor or the city council in Cleveland decided they was going to vote themselves a sanctuary city. As a senator in Washington, I cannot fly back home to Ohio, go to Cleveland, and tell them you can't do that. I have no power to stop them. Okay? I'll tell you who does have the power, and that's the people of Cleveland. If those elected officials decide that's what they want to do, then when they come up for re-election, you vote them out of office. And you put people in those positions who are against sanctuary cities. And the same thing at the state level. I can't come back from Washington and go to Columbus and tell the governor of the state that he cannot make Ohio a sanctuary state. I don't have any power to do. The President of the United States don't have any power to do that. But what I do have the power to do is to introduce and support any and all legislation in Congress that will punish these people for doing that. First of all, removing all federal funds. Now, I know there's a big argument on the liberal side of the House going, oh, you're going to hurt people, police and fire, and citizens are going to be hurt by that, and it's going to be your fault. No, it's not my fault. I'm not the one voting to become a sanctuary city or state. It's the mayor and the city council or the governor and the legislature of that state that's doing that. And when a mayor or governor understands that the federal government says if you do this, you're going to lose this money, and they thumb their nose at the federal government and do it anyway, then the people have one person to blame, and it's not the federal government. It's the knucklehead sitting in the city council or the state capitol building. Okay? Now, why would they lose federal funding? Well, because they're breaking federal law. Now, the Constitution gives states the right to govern themselves. But the Constitution also dictates that the state's laws do not circumcede. They don't overrule. My tongue and I just don't get along sometimes. That state laws do not supersede federal law. States can make a law stricter. In other words, add to a federal law. And we'll use the minimum wage for this, okay? As the example. Federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. States can vote in a higher minimum wage. States cannot lower the minimum wage. A state cannot vote to bring its minimum wage down to $5.25 because the federal is $7.25. The state can vote to have a $8.25 or $9.25 or $10.25 federal wage. A state cannot vote to obstruct immigration laws. It's against the Constitution. It's illegal for them to do that. So therefore, when they break federal law, there must be punishment. What you have, and this is something that it kind of coincides with the argument right now over guns, is that you have states saying that you don't have a right to own certain weapons. But these are also states who are telling people that, well, we're not going to obey the law when it comes to immigration. So the law says you can do this. So what does that mean? That means that they are picking and choosing the laws that they want to obey. I mean, even President Obama multiple times said in dealing with immigration, when asked about immigration a lot of times, he came out and said, well, we're a country of laws, and we have to obey the laws, and I can't circumvent those laws, even though he did multiple times. The DACA thing, that was his circumventing the immigration laws, breaking federal law himself with his executive order, and circumventing. That's why I disagree with the court who's trying to tell President Trump he can't end DACA. Okay? President Trump don't have to listen to that. Okay? Because first of all, President Obama signed an executive order and put a deadline on that order. President Trump has absolutely no obligation to renew that unconstitutional executive order. A current president does not have to renew an executive order from a previous president if the deadline for that, if that order expires under the current president's watch. There's nothing in federal law that says he has to do it. So therefore, I don't know where the judge got the idea at that he has to tell the president he has to extend DACA. He doesn't. Okay? Because there's no federal law that says he has to. His job as president is to enforce the federal laws, not make laws. That's the legislation branch. That's the Congress. Only Congress can make laws. Don't tell President Obama, because he thought he was the legislature and, the king of the country, and he could make whatever laws he wanted to. Okay? So, but back to the sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities, sanctuary states are breaking federal law. They're telling the people of this country that you don't have to obey laws. Okay, so if I go out and rob a bank and I get arrested because it's against the law, I can use them as an example. That ain't the same. Yeah, it is. Breaking law is breaking law. Do we have laws or not? Okay, Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters, they're all going into, a civilized nation doesn't have walls this high. All right, do you know what creates a civilized nation? Laws. The obedience and the enforcement of those laws. When society decides it's going to decide what laws it wants to abide by, and it only abides by the ones that, someone in society decides it doesn't like a law, and so therefore they're not subjugated to it, and they don't have to obey it, then that's when society breaks down. And that's what you have in California right now. And a few other states that are starting to implement sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, because they're basically going, we do what we want to do, screw you. So, what are we going to do about it? Okay, I 100% agree on the removal of all federal funds. Okay, what I would like to see happen is arrests. If I break a federal law, the FBI is going to be knocking down my door, putting me in cuffs, and taking me off to jail. So why is a politician different? We're all the same people. We're all citizens of the country. We all have to obey the same laws. So my personal thing is, when you have a city who has sanctuary status up for vote in the city council, there should be FBI agents standing there in that council meeting. And every councilman who votes yes, and then when the mayor signs it into effect, the FBI walks up, cuffs each person who signed yes, cuffs the mayor for approving of it, and hauls their butts off to federal penitentiaries. And they're charged with breaking the law, with whatever the the immigration laws that they broke was. They go to court and they go to prison. Same thing with the state legislature. The governor, as soon as he signs that bill, he's cuffed and hauled off to freaking prison. The state Congress, the state legislature, every single person who votes yes for the sanctuary to thumb their nose is handcuffed at the end of the voting period. Everyone who votes yes, they're handcuffed as they walk out of chambers and hauled off to prison. You know, I'm going to tell you this. If that was to be done, it would only take one city. And I'll tell you what else would happen. As soon as the FBI agents showed up in the chamber the legislation chambers on the day of the vote, I guarantee you there would be a whole lot of those yes votes just turned into no's. You make an example out of one and the rest won't do it. Pretty simple. Now that will cause a bit of a conundrum. Okay? Because when you remove almost the entire city council and the mayor and throw them in prison at the same time, then that leaves the city with no governance. And the same thing with the state. When you take out the state legislature and the governor, then it leaves nobody in charge of the state. So there's a bit of a conundrum. So, but those are my beliefs. That's what I believe needs to be done. And right now, though, I believe the Justice Department is looking at suing. The mayor at Oakland, yeah, we just need to go arrest her. First of all, she colluded with the enemy, if you want to put it that way. She consulted with an illegal immigration agency. The illegal alien who was just appointed to a position in Florida, in California, the FBI or ICE should walk into their office, cuff them, and take them out. Hey, you're an illegal. See ya. You're going back to wherever you come from. And if the state appoints another one, you know, as soon as they take the oath, as soon as they walk in their office, ICE is standing there waiting on them. You know, if we enforced the laws of this country, you wouldn't have some of the problems we have. All right? And that's part of what the border security is all about. Again, I talk about that in immigration, in that, you know, securing the border, I call it a barrier, not a wall. Because there's areas where, you know, we could put a wall. There's areas where a physical wall is not going to be able to be built, so you would have like a fencing or something like that. It's still a barrier. So let's call it a border barrier instead of a wall. You'll still hear me refer to it as a wall because it's just so much easier to say. But we secure the border with both a physical, electronic, technological barrier that stops illegal immigration. Then we can work on the other part of dealing with those that are already here. But whenever, let's put it this way, the mayor in Oakland committed a criminal act. It's called aiding and abetting. Not only did she break federal law, but she also broke California state law. If you are hiding a fugitive, you can be arrested for aiding and abetting, and you go to jail just like they do. So is that not what a sanctuary city is, or state? They are hiding fugitives from justice. Therefore, they are aiding and abetting. So not only are they breaking federal immigration laws, they're also breaking their own state law on aiding and abetting. You know, I just don't get it. Now, they'll arrest you for it, put you in jail, but they think they're above the law because they're in the legislature. But see, this is also another problem with that, is that these are elected officials. And I had a person make a comment to me in the remarks on one of my postings about people in Congress are supposed to enforce the laws not do things according to their personal opinions. I 100% agree, and that's why I want to go. Because we have too many people in Congress that put their personal agenda into things instead of enforcing the laws and rules and regulations of the United States. All right, I'm a by the book person. All right, you talk to anybody that serves with me in the Marine Corps. You talk to the people I worked with at the company I've worked for the past 20 years. They're going to tell you that I'm the most by the book freaking person in the world, and they're going to say it in a very disdain way because it irritates the crap out of them that I'm so by the book. Okay, but I'm sorry, that's just the way I was raised. I was taught. My daddy said, if this is the freaking rules, you follow the rules. That's the way I was raised. Okay? In that case, you know, my job in Washington isn't to circumvent the rules, it's to enforce them. Now, if you disagree with a law, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's how laws get made. All right? And that's how they get changed and adjusted. If you disagree with the law, then you put forward to the legislation and you change it. Okay? But the problem is you can't circumvent the Constitution. If you do, then we have to go change the Constitution. All right? Which can be done. Not likely that we're going to get an amendment to the Constitution that opens the borders and gives free access to illegals and makes them no longer illegal, but, you know, but that's how you got to do things if you disagree with the law. Well, the governor, the state legislature, the mayors in California, they're doing their own personal agenda. They don't care about the people. It's about their personal agenda. Again, it's what politicians do. So, there's a real simple thing to do. People in California vote the knuckleheads out, put people in there that's going to enforce the laws. If the people of California disagree with the law, then we need to work on changing it. They need to get the legislature to change the law. Okay? By declaring themselves a sanctuary city and going against federal law does not bode well for them. All right? But that's my opinion on sanctuary cities. That's what we need to do. And I'll stand behind any federal government things that prevents sanctuary cities. If Ohio wants to freaking have a sanctuary city, then I'm going to campaign for those people to be voted out of office. But I'm also going to work toward removing any and all federal funding. And then I will work toward helping prosecute any politician who breaks federal law. Pretty simple.